They say if you drive down Concha Cruz Drive after midnight, never look into the car next to you, because the driver challenging you to a race died 40 years ago. It was 1:45 in Parañaque City. Mark and his two friends were cruising through BF Homes. They were driving down Concha Cruz Drive, a long, lonely stretch of asphalt known for one thing: drag racing. The road was empty, dead quiet. One of the boys, Ronnie, begged to stop to relieve himself. He ran into the tall grass on the roadside. It was silent, too silent. When Ronnie jumped back in, the air inside the car felt heavier, colder. They started driving again, heading toward the intersection, when a shadow detached itself from the darkness. A black sedan pulled up on their right side. It had no headlights on. The windows were tinted so dark they looked like pools of ink. It sat there, pacing them, engine revving, spoiling for a fight. Mark, young and arrogant, grinned. He was the son of a racer. He slammed his foot on the gas to accept the challenge. But the black car didn't move forward. Instead, the tinted passenger window slowly, painfully rolled down. Mark and Jen rolled down their own window to trash talk the stranger, but the words died in their throats. Inside the black sedan sat a young man and a woman. They were dressed in white, but you could barely tell. Their clothes were soaked in wet crimson blood. Their faces were ashen, streaked with gore pouring from massive open head wounds. They didn't blink. They didn't breathe. They just stared straight ahead with dead, bloodshot eyes. Mark screamed and floored it. The car fishtailed as they sped away. When Jan finally gathered the courage to check the rearview mirror, the road behind them was empty. Just a flickering lamppost in the pitch black. They pounded on the door of the nearest house. A local resident, Mrs. Tirona, let the shaking boys inside. When they described the black car, she didn't look surprised. She just told them the truth. That was Eric and Janina. Back in the early 80s, Eric was the king of this road. One Sunday, a rival named Bernard challenged him. Bernard played dirty. He clipped Eric's car at 100 kilometers an hour. Eric and Janina weren't wearing seatbelts. The crash was catastrophic. Eric died instantly. Janina's head hit the dashboard so hard it cracked open. They were buried in those white clothes. Mrs. Tirona looked at Mark and said, "They aren't trying to race you, son. They're showing you their wounds to warn you. They're telling you to slow down before you end up just like them."
Story 2. The Lighthouse Mirror. The mirror fogged up, but my reflection wasn't there. Instead, water droplets started moving on their own, spelling out a death sentence from the grave. The assignment was supposed to be simple, a lifestyle feature on the history of Bataan. Junie, the editor, and his crew arrived at the old lighthouse just as the sky turned the color of a bruise. The air was thick, smelling of old salt and damp lemon. It was the kind of atmosphere that makes your skin crawl. Rodel, the caretaker, led them inside the stone tower. He pointed to faint scratches on the limestone walls, love letters carved decades ago by his great-great-grandmother, Estrelita, and his lover, a Chinese boatman named Chang. "It wasn't a happy ending," Rodel whispered. "It was a Spanish sailor named Jose who wanted Estrelita for himself. He was a cruel man. One night, he brought soldiers. They beat Chiang and dragged him away. Jose cornered Estrelita at the very top of this lighthouse. He tried to force himself on her, but she chose gravity over him. She jumped, her body shattered on the rocks below. Her last word to the Spaniard was screamed into the wind, "Hindi kita mahal, I do not love you." Junie laughed off the story. He was a skeptic and he'd had too many beers. He excused himself to use the lighthouse bathroom, a cramped, dark room with a single cracked mirror. Junie stood there, alone. The room grew freezing cold. The humidity in the air turned to ice on the glass. The mirror fogged up completely, hiding his reflection. Then, the droplets began to move. Slowly, as if written by an invisible finger, words appeared in the condensation. H, I, N, D, I. Junie's scream echoed in the lighthouse. The crew rushed in. They found Junie frozen, staring at the glass. The message was clear, dripping down the mirror. Hindi kita mahal. The crew froze. They realized why the ghost had targeted him. Junie was a Spanish mestizo. Standing in the dark with his heavy features, he looked exactly like the man who killed her all those years ago. And Estrelita never forgets a face.
Story 3. The Locked Studio. I made sure the door was locked. I made sure the lights were off. I was alone. So why did I wake up under blinding lights with a stranger's voice whispering my name right into my ear? This happened back when I worked for a television station in Makati. Our office was on the 3rd floor of a rotting, ancient building. It was the kind of place that felt heavy, especially during the graveyard shift. The security guards always whispered about the white ladies that haunted the elevators. I laughed it off. I didn't believe in ghosts. I believed in deadlines. One night, we were working late on a special. Around midnight, the guard on duty rushed into our editing bay. He was pale, shaking. He told us he saw a woman walking to the restroom. He heard the toilet flush. He waited, but she never came out. When he finally opened the door to check, the stall was empty. We told him he was crazy. We told him to stop watching horror movies on the conference room TV. He just scratched his head, looking terrified, but we ignored him. We were wrong. By 2 a.m., my eyes were heavy. I decided to crash in the recording studio. It was the best place to sleep. Soundproof, carpeted, and freezing cold. My coworkers loved playing pranks, so I made sure to lock the door from the inside. Deadbolt. Click. No one could get in. I turned off the lights. The room went pitch black. I wrapped myself in a thick comforter on the floor and drifted off to sleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I didn't wake up naturally. My subconscious screamed at me to run. I was still groggy, but I could hear them. Voices. A deep, baritone man's voice and a soft, giggling girl. They weren't outside the door. They were inside the room. Suddenly, right against my ear, a voice murmured my name. My eyes snapped open. I bolted upright. I tried to scream, but the air froze in my lungs. The room was blazing bright. The lights I had explicitly turned off were fully on.
The air conditioner was blasting so cold I can see my own breath in the air. I looked at the door. It was still locked from the inside. I grabbed my blanket and ran. I didn't stop running until I found the guard in the kitchen. We drank coffee in silence until the sun came up. I never dared to tell him he was right, and I never slept in that studio again.